Welcome in. My name is Melanie, Sheree. I'm a lifelong medium and spiritual teacher, and I'm the co-founder of Awakening Sanctuary Academy, the psychic development academy for all of those who would like to learn how to develop their intuitive abilities. I cannot figure out how to turn off this sparkling thing that's happening to my face. So here we go. We're going to talk about this today while the sparkles are going. So I wanted to talk about what channeling is and give you the rundown of all the things you really need to know about channeling, because there's so much information out there and it's hard to really know what's what to expect, what the right stuff is. It's all convoluted, right? So before I get into that, I wanted to let you all know that I have some spaces for our student healing clinic that are going to be this Sunday available. There are 4 spaces and they're going to go very fast. I've pinned that into the chat if you'd like to sign up to receive an energy healing. And it's a really low cost way to kind of dip your toe in the water if you're interested and you've never had a healing before. So let's get started. What is channeling? I've heard people talk about this in so many different ways, and some of the explanations, they're pretty close to what channeling is. Some of them I'm like, oh man, you were kind of missing the mark here. So channeling occurs when you, as the channeler, decide to open up your energy field to bring in an energy that is not your own, or an energy, a consciousness, a being, a spirit of sorts. And in that, you are bringing that into your energy field and letting it communicate through you, heal through you, convey a message of sorts. It can be a lot of different things, right? Sometimes there's certain people that channel energies that are there to convey messages or teaching or forecasts for things that are going to come up in the world. Sometimes it's more about giving voice to a specific energy. But with a lot of the stuff that's kind of popularized with channeling, I just wanted to debunk some things in today's video. What happens when somebody is channeling is they are not only opening up their energy field for that to come in, but they are matching that energy's frequency. So let's say, you're interacting with a disembodied energy. That energy, since it's not embodied, vibrates at a different frequency, so an out-of-body frequency. So a lot of times when somebody's channeling, they're bringing themselves to an out-of-body vibration to move their energy and their consciousness out of the way so that they can bring that energy in and through. And you're sort of coming into a match vibrationally with that frequency so that can occur. So what that means is you need to be able to know how to do that. It's a little bit of a dance, but you're sort of, taking your embodied frequency, bringing it to an out-of-body frequency. The being or, the consciousness that you're channeling is kind of coming down to match you. That is what's occurring. And this is the thing that I think I see the most about channeling that's a little bit of a myth. Channeling is not something that is this extraordinary thing that only special people can do. It's not something that only chosen people can do. It's not something that only skilled people can do. In fact, everybody channels. I just want to blow that myth up right now because, every single person on this planet channels. They just don't know that they're doing it. There's a really big difference between consciously choosing to channel and unconsciously channeling. And the skill part comes in where you are consciously choosing to channel and you are aware of what you're bringing in and you're following a few different steps from that conscious space when you're bringing those things through. So
You want to call?
I am. So when we're talking about channeling, we are talking about, somebody who is, conscious of doing this, right? Unconsciously channeling is what most people are out there in the world doing. And let me give you some examples. These might ring a bell. So way that you might experience channeling is when you're talking to somebody or you're arguing with somebody and all of a sudden you find that you sound like somebody else that you know. So let's say you're arguing and all of a sudden, you're yelling at your kids, like any good parent, and you start to sound like your dad or your mom. It's very likely that you are channeling their energy. You're just not doing that consciously. You might then take a step back and go, wow, I really sounded like my dad or my mom. That is an example of channeling that happens unconsciously in the world. Another example of that is, if you see somebody who's a performer or an actor, this is a very clear example of channeling where that person is bringing an energy in to become or be something that they're not. So when somebody takes on a role as an actor, they are channeling a character. They're bringing that consciousness through and they are embodying it, right? And a really good actor is a very skilled channeler. This is the same thing for somebody who's a performer. One of my favorite examples, close to my heart, of a channeler is a drag queen. Watching somebody go from being out of drag and then into drag and become that stage persona, it is clear as day to me oftentimes that person is bringing a being through. They are channeling. So those are examples of ways that people channel that they don't really know that they might be doing. And I think another clear example of this is when people drink, when they drink alcohol. There's that sort of commonly known thing where, some people are crier drunks, some people are angry drunks, and some people you just never know what you're going to get. And that's because they're bringing themselves into an out-of-body vibration and things are coming through. So maybe that's a really emotional tone, or it's an angry tone, or it's a wild card tone where you just don't know what they're going to bring through. Really clear examples of unconsciously channeling in the world. So I want to move into who should really not be channeling. And in the sense of, spirituality in the New Age world, I see a lot of people give advice around channeling and when you're ready for it and how to do it. And the thing is, I don't think that anybody really should be channeling unless you can see what you are interacting with. And the reason that this is so important, so incredibly important, and I can't stress this enough, is that unless you can see the energy that you are bringing in and choosing to allow into your energy field, you have no idea who or what that energy is. So, let's say you're just like, okay, I'm going to open up and channel this thing and bring it through and it's going to be great. If you can't see what that is, you're inviting anything to step into your space. So, I've worked with so many people over the years that have been channelers for some time and that channel for groups and that have these kind of bigger platforms around channeling. And what ends up happening for these people that can't consciously see that energy or make clear agreements with those energies that they're bringing through is that they don't know how to then move that out. Because when you channel, what you're doing is you are allowing this energy of the consciousness that you're bringing in to come into your energy field. There's this overlap that happens. And let's say you're doing that a couple times a week or, a couple times a day. There's this constant exchange happening. But what happens for people when they don't know how to separate those things out is that your consciousness, your manifestations for your life, your emotional state, your mental state, your physical well-being is now matched with and intermingled with this other energy. And this other energy sitting and staying in your energy field is kind of like water in your gas tank. It is the wrong fuel for your body. So people that channel all sorts of different energies and get that mixed up in their energy field without the ability to know what they're bringing in, know how to move it out, know how it's going to really affect them, end up getting bogged down with a lot of really weird stuff and symptoms. And that's kind of typically when I end up seeing people because they're really ungrounded or all of a sudden their emotional state's a mess, their mental, their physical, they can't manifest, they can't move forward. There's all these different things that can happen. with that can be kind of negative, and that's why I don't recommend it to everybody. And I've had examples of people that I've worked with that have brought in, different deities or different ascended masters, or, energies that you wouldn't think would be so bad to work with, like an angel, right? They're channeling angels. And the thing about doing that without being able to see where that energy's sitting in your field, to be able to set a conscious agreement about how far in that energy can come into your space, and setting the agreement in a way where that energy is then moving completely out of your space, is that, even if you're channeling an angel, or you're channeling Jesus, or you're channeling, some other really ascended energy, without being able to move that out, it then makes things really murky. So, what I've kind of seen is people that then get really disconnected from the things that they want for themselves. They start kind of really functioning from this place of, okay, this deity wants me to do this. And then the identity around you gets intermingled and somehow kind of gets diluted, and you don't really get the things that you want in your world. I don't have anything negative to say about specific people that channel energies over and over and over. But what ends up happening with somebody, kind of like Bashar, which is a very popular channeler, is that person, Daryl, is no longer getting the validation. That being, Bashar, is getting the validation. So his manifestations and his mock-ups for his life and what he wants to create for himself all revolve around Bashar's message. So now his life is kind of taken over by that being. And, the messages and the teachings might be really profound, and a lot of them are. There's really great stuff that comes through. But is Daryl really getting what he wants in this lifetime? That's the question. Or is he getting lost in that? Is he not being able to get the things that he wants to create and manifest and learn and grow through? Or is this being able to get everything that it wants? And so that's where it's a little bit tricky, because it's really up to you at that point, what you want to experience. I'm just kind of taking a look at my notes here. So it can really affect you physically, emotionally, and mentally if you don't know how to separate that water out of your gas tank. And this can really happen for people that are dealing with different things that they're really stuck in. So let's say that you have this experience where there's this terrible incident that occurs, and all of a sudden you just don't feel like yourself. You can't get out of a certain mental state. You're always feeling a certain way, and you just don't feel like you anymore. That is a really clear indicator that traumatic event popped you out of your body, and that something else came in. And that happens for people all of the time. There's this instance of experiencing something that's really challenging, where as a spirit you say, nope, I am out, I am not dealing with that. And you leave, and something else comes in. And that's where people really get stuck, is that they end up channeling an energy that's really stuck in a particular vibration that keeps them in a certain space, and they don't know how to get out of that. So some indicators that you might be managing an energy in your field that's not you, where you're kind of channeling something or being something that you're not. This is a really clear indicator. If you feel like you're being somebody or acting some way or stuck in something that's really not you, that is a clear indicator that you have a being that's kind of stuck in your field that you're channeling, that's, you don't really know how to get it out of there. You might kind of feel really stuck in a particular place, or like there's a roadblock up, or like you just are acting in a way that you just normally wouldn't. Those are really clear indicators. So let me give you just my roadmap to things that you should not be bringing into your body. If you do choose to channel, this is not a hard and fast rule. I'm not shaming anybody. Everybody has free will. If you want to experience that, please be my guest. What I would recommend that you do not bring into your body is a relative bringing a relative into your space, you can really lose your space to that family energy and that family agreement. It can make things really muddy, and it can kind of just mess up your whole field if you let that too far into your energy field. Especially a relative who is passed. Extraterrestrial energy. I do not recommend ever bringing extraterrestrial energy into your space. First and foremost, because that energy does not have a human form. It does not vibrate in a match with the human body, and it can really blow out your whole energy system. It's very harsh on the body. It can be extremely disruptive on a physical level. And let me tell you, because for many years I was absolutely bringing that energy through my space unconsciously, it can affect you on a physical health level. So if you're somebody who has hormonal issues, has a lot of fatigue, hair's falling out all of a sudden, I'm just trying to say, that was what was happening for me. And once I found that and got it out of there, I was like, oh my God, I have my energy, I have mental clarity, my hair is not falling out, I'm not sick all of the time. It was the constant. And what I was doing, and I don't recommend to anybody, is yelling out into the ethers, I don't want to be here on this planet anymore. Please come pick me up. I don't want to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. I hate being a human being. Hello, spaceship, take me home. Don't recommend doing that ever. Ever, ever, ever. Please do not do that. And I've worked with so many people who have. And I have to kind of go in and move all of that attention out of their space, where they're kind of calling out into the ethers and attracting that level of attention into their field. So you should never bring ET energy through your space. And if you cannot and don't know how to set a clear agreement with spirit, and to be certain with spirit, and to communicate with spirit, and to see what you're bringing in, you really should not be channeling. Because beings and spirit are just like people. When you go to a car dealership and they make an agreement with you to sell you that car, there's an exchange. They're trying to get you to pay a certain amount of money for a certain quality thing. And a lot of times they're trying to charge you a little extra. And they will try to, disguise that as the best deal of your life. Meanwhile, they're getting a big commission. So there's an agreement happening there where you are saying, I'm here for this thing, I want this. And they're saying, yes, I have this, and I'm going to package it like it's this great thing. But there's this small fine print. There's small fine print here that you might not be aware of. And when you enter into that agreement, you have to be really aware with spirit what that agreement is. Is it a one-time channeling agreement? Is that being going to only come through and communicate through you verbally? Is that being going to come into your whole body and start walking around in your body and eating all sorts of weird things and making you do all sorts of weird things? Or is it going to be a conscious agreement where you are directing how much of the energy comes in, and deciding and choosing and moving that energy out when you are done? Not a lot of people know how to do that. And it's really important to be able to know how to. So let's move into what a skilled channeler is. I'm just peeking at my notes here. A skilled channeler has experience and practice in clairvoyance. They're able to see that energy in spirit. They're confident in setting a clear agreement with a energy that they're going to bring through. They can choose to direct that energy. They can choose to kind of decide how much communication comes through if that energy is accessing their space. Sometimes I'm, channeling in a group setting, and a consciousness that I'm channeling wants to say something that's really triggering, and I just kind of say, hey, by the way, I see what you're about to say there, and I would rephrase that. There's a clearer, better way to communicate that without spinning everybody out. So you really having control over that channeling interaction is important. A skilled channeler sets that conscious agreement around how much access that being is going to have, when they're going to move out, and really creates an agreement that's healing for the body. Because if you're just channeling anything for channeling's sake or for performance sake or for validation's sake, you're not necessarily choosing the energy that's in a affinity or a match with your vibration. And again, it can be extremely taxing on somebody to try to bring their frequency from here to here and then have to drop back down and sit here for some time to be able to channel. It is exhaustive if you don't have that conscious agreement. That's kind of all I wanted to talk about with channeling here, and I have in my notes. But the last thing I will say is sometimes that I have been channeling and I didn't really recognize that I was all of a sudden, as I was going through psychic development training, I just had this crazy urge that I wanted to learn how to knit. So I bought all this yarn and I bought all these supplies to be able to knit. And then I was like, you know what would be even better than knitting? If I learned how to spin wool and create my own yarn. So then I got into this class where I learned how to spin yarn and create it. And there's a spinning wheel and I'm taking the fibers and I'm melding them together. And all of a sudden, maybe 5 months later and maybe $1,000 into this hobby, I found this little old lady in my energy field. Her name was Ethel, and she was so excited about knitting. She wanted to make scarves and mittens and all of these different things, and she didn't get a chance to do all of that while she was alive. And once I found her in my field and I moved her out, I looked around at the piles of yarn and the different knitting accessories and the spinning wheel and was like, wow, I don't want to knit. I do not want to knit. I don't know why I just got taken on this wild ride around knitting. But that was an example of me channeling and not really knowing that I was doing that. And it happens to people all the time where all of a sudden they just get this idea and they're off, or they get this, thing that they're excited about and they are gone, and sometimes those things last for a little while. Sometimes they last a little longer, but a lot of times that is somebody channeling a little bit. We're getting stuck in an energy. So lastly, what I wanted to say is there are some spots for you to come and receive an energy healing this weekend on Sunday. There are 4 spots available. I have the link for the energy healings pinned in the chat here. It's a great way to get in and get an energy healing experience, what it's like. It's low cost. There's low commitment. Come in, feel refreshed, leave getting unstuck from something that you are moving through. It's a great way to get an energetic reset. The other thing I wanted to mention was that we have a reading fair coming up where you can choose the topic of your choice and receive an energy reading. And again, those are really low cost, low commitment ways to kind of get into the space and experience what it's like to receive a reading or a healing. I teach beginner psychic development classes where you can learn to see, read, heal energy for yourself and other people. Those are held virtually through Zoom on Wednesdays. They are also pretty low cost. I believe it's less than $20 per class for those weekly classes. Right now we're in a series on traversing the astral plane, so bringing your consciousness out of the body into the dream space and learning to become and build up that conscious awareness in your sleep space, which is a really fun topic to explore, because once you're really bringing your consciousness into that space, it's almost like you're never asleep. You're always in this state of awareness and exploration, and you can actually create from that space of the astral, which is really effortless. It's where that manifestation space really comes to life. So I'm currently teaching a series on that. I will have my discount sessions linked in my highlights, my story highlights here for a little bit longer. They are to thank all of you for following my page and supporting my business and my dreams as a teacher and a mentor. I have a YouTube channel, and you can find the link for those things in my bio. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. I hope that you're having a wonderful Monday, and this has been super informative. I don't know how I got these sparkles on here, but I am feeling it now. Have a great rest of your week. Take care. Be well. Bye.